Hello, welcome to Education Today. I'm CJ Shirley from Katanning High School and the Armstrong School District. On today's show, we are going to learn about the TV production program and the Armstrong School District and where it may go as Katanning and Ford City combine to become the Armstrong Riverhawks this fall. Welcome to the show. We're now joined by the best suited to tackle this topic, Mr. Chris Garetano and Mr. Don Swanson. Why should students take TV production?
Well, CJ, I think that one of the fundamentals of education, or one of the primary jobs of education, is to expose kids to a lot of different opportunities. And in the modern world, which is very largely technology and media focused, it's a course that speaks to that, part of the reality of what it's like for you guys out there. And also, it's a chance to see something a little bit different, which is a very viable career opportunity in and of itself. So I think that exposure, just to see how interested a kid may or may not be in it, is a great reason to take the class. But I also think taking the class gives you a respect for media and basically the term media literacy, how to interact with the media, which is something you guys are bombarded with on a daily basis.
I agree. Do you think this course truly benefits students looking to pursue a career in television production?
Oh yeah, most certainly.
I guess the easiest explanation I could give or description I could give of that is when I was in high school, several years ago now, I took TV production and junior and senior year, and it gave me a good background knowledge in the field. It kind of gave me an understanding of what I wanted to, or what the field was going to be like, or what I should expect. And I think the biggest thing that I got out of that course then was that we did something called linear editing, which basically is you're taking two tape that you guys are used to non-linear editing, where it's all digital, it's all on the computer and everything. Linear editing is actually the process of putting two decks side by side, tape decks, and actually cueing in and out points on those tapes, recording it from your raw footage to your edited footage. And that's actually a skill that they don't really teach in colleges anymore. When I got into my internship to finish my undergraduate degree, that was one of the things I needed to know how to do in my internship at the news station, which I picked up at in high school. So something that we both work together on is trying to make sure that we give a good knowledge, a good fundamental background of what you're going to expect, not just at a high school level so that you guys understand it and that you get credit for it, but things that you can actually apply in the real world. So
right, and to piggyback off that a little bit, it's technology centered. And yeah, you guys, in the same way when you go to college, chances of you living in like an 8x8 jail cell size dorm room is slim compared to when we went with suites and everything now. You guys never got to experience the joy of linear editing or flatbed film editing and things like that, because it's all computer based now, it's all digital. And the more familiar you are with a computer, I feel, regardless of the program or the software interface that you're using, the better suited you're going to be to work with a computer in any capacity moving forward. And that's just the state of the world today. You have to have computer knowledge, you have to be comfortable with a computer. And more than that, it's a chance to take the computer and do something incredibly creative with it. That's one of the things I think is cool. I know our two camera guys out there today, Mr. Cade and Mr. Jacob, put together a project recently, and I think they were just at their wits' end because it wasn't working. And then I had the opportunity to sit down with them and kind of work through it with them and try looking at it this way. And because it's digital and non-linear, they had the opportunity to try things out, moving around. And when it was all said and done, they actually got a product that they were pretty happy with. Whereas, like Chris said, back in the day, you made a mistake, then
start all
the way back.
Wow.
Yeah, and all the way forward again.
Yep.
What grades are eligible to take this course?
As it stands currently, juniors and seniors, you have to pass public speaking with a C or better, which you cannot take until your sophomore year. So only sophomores that pass public speaking are eligible their junior year, and then kids that don't take public speaking until their junior year can't take it until their senior year.
Okay. Have you or the school board made any changes to the curriculum?
Probably the most recent change would be the actual implementation of a structured higher level course, which is categorized as media and filmmaking. For shorthand, we call it TV2. And it's kind of the successor to TV1. It's largely seminar based, kind of rolls off of a college structure where there are hard due dates out there. We kind of like talk about ideas, plan ideas, and then the kids kind of go out on their timetables and shoot it and check in and have to produce things by a certain time. That's the most recent thing. Before, that class was an independent study, and it's actually just in the last probably 3, maybe 4 years that it became a permanent part of the curriculum. Moving forward into the new building, Chris and I have certainly had discussions about ideas, maybe splitting the introductory course into semester courses and kind of restructuring that, like almost like an intro and then a production and then a year-long seminar style thing. But that's quite a way off at this point. I mean, we got to get into the new building and we got to get used to the new building, and once that happens, we can potentially see about where to go from there.
Yeah, there's going to be protocol that we're going to have to follow in order to do that. The opportunity that students have right now with everything that goes on, with all the classes, all the options that they have, their schedules get kind of filled up. And what we found is, at least with TV2, with the advanced TV classes, in the past, when it was an independent study, we would have students that were only coming in during the semester, half the year, because they had a time then. By offering these classes in potential semesters instead of full school year, it might open up the opportunity for more kids to kind of get a taste of what it might be like and then decide, is this something that I want to prioritize later on in high school. But just, I guess, to give it, like, since you brought up the curriculum, just to get a little bit of a background, TV production, as you guys know it now, is only been in place for about 10 or 11 years. There was a curriculum written years ago before that where the class was kind of being taught on a hybrid level by a teacher who's now retired, Barb Keller, who actually was part of writing the original curriculum for the course. And consequently, she also wrote the TV2 curriculum with some assistance. And so the curriculum was there. It was just until more recently that it turned into what it is now. So.
Right. And I know the TV production curriculum has been relatively unchanged for not the whole 10 years, but probably the last 6 or 7 anyway. The TV2 curriculum evolves a little bit each year. It's only the 3rd year of having it as an actual structured class. And I know that, this year is a little more stable than, say, last year. And last year is fairly different from the first year because it's kind of like going through it, the ideas are there and you're kind of following through that, but you kind of tweak things a little bit. I think that TV production has been running long enough now that it's pretty much, a well-oiled machine, whereas the upper level class, it's still kind of tweaking a little bit as we go.
Do you think there will be an increase in the number of students taking this course?
Yes.
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 Yeah, the idea here is, and not to exclude West Shamokin from it. We don't want it to seem that way because West Shamokin's still going to be a big part of what we do. They still are going to have the TV production course. They're still going to be coming down to the TV studio. What I anticipate and based on what we've seen at West Shamokin is a smaller sample size, but we put in a hybrid TV studio for them a couple years ago.
Wow.
Kind of a guinea pig program to see how it would work. And there are a lot of reasons we won't get into why we chose to do it that way. But what we have seen now is that their enrollment, their numbers have gone up, both in independent studies and people who are registering for the regular course. And I believe that a lot of that has to do with the technology that they're able to use. Technically, although the quality is not necessarily better than the equipment here, the equipment is more high-tech than the equipment we have here. And the students there, especially this year, have really kind of grasped onto that, and they're really running on their own, learning things about the TriCaster system that we have set up down there for them to do different productions and different things that we don't really have the capability to do with the equipment here anymore. But based on that and the fact that right now the studio sits in the junior high school. Junior high kids don't have the ability to take this course. The high school kids are the only ones. So with this studio being moved into the high school where the students are going to see it every day, they're going to have an opportunity to work in it every day as opposed to like 4 times a year, which is what it's like now. I think the interest is going to peak. There's going to be more people who are going to see it, and they're going to want to be involved in it in one way or another. And so I would expect that just that alone will drive the numbers, higher than what they are now. So
yeah, I think so. I know at Katanning, from my experience teaching the class, I think a lot of kids take it based on what they hear and what they see. They see kids out in the halls. They see these sometimes funny things aired on the announcements, something like that, and oh, they think that's fun, da da da, and then they get into it, and then they get a taste of what the class actually is, and some really latch onto it. But every year, the first time we bring kids here for Education Today, it's like a whole nother level to them, I think, And when we're in a situation where, in essence, you have the studio as part of the class, I think that's going to make a big difference, because there's going to be a little bit more than just, oh, that seems fun, which in the past has gotten kids in the door, and then we kind of do what we do from there. I think actually knowing, if you have any interest in this at all and you walk into a studio space like this, especially what we're looking at in the new building, you're going to be like, wow, I get to hang out here and do stuff here, and this is for lack of a better comparison, it's like the band room to the band kids, it's like your studio to the TV kids, or like the auditorium to the drama kids. So I think that'll have a big impact.
I do too. Do you plan on managing a bigger class?
Well,
the potential is there. If the numbers go up, we don't want to turn kids away from it. Right. There are some logistics that obviously Mr. Swanson can talk to a little bit more since he's teaching, but there are some logistics number-wise when you start comparing the ratio of students in a class to the number of editors we have available or the number of cameras we have available, that we want to try to stick within the parameters of. But, if we end up with, I think there's 8 periods in a day.
Right.
If we end up with 8 periods worth of students who want to take it and they're able to get in it, and there are some other things that play into that as well, then my opinion is the more the merrier. I think we're looking at the ideal class size, I think right now is 15.
15. That's what we suggested to administration, to cap the class is at 15 students. Reason being, one, it's a little larger than the cap that we have now. Now we say 10, 12 at the max, given our space and everything. We say 15 moving forward because of, even though we're going to be in a bigger space, we're still going to have X amount of editors. We're still going to have X amount of cameras. And I think 15 would probably be ideal. And I know full-heartedly what Chris was saying. I've actually shot myself in the foot in the past shooting the class because I didn't want to turn kids away. And I'm actually in my second location at Katanning High School for teaching the class. My first location was much smaller, to put it politely, much smaller. And it bit me a couple times because there were a lot of kids who wanted to take the class, and I didn't want to deny them that opportunity. And I know one time I had 18 kids in what was basically an oversized closet.
Wow.
And when that happens, you don't want to deny kids the opportunity, but if you overreach, in terms of the number of kids in the class, then everybody loses a little bit. You know what I mean? Because then you don't get quite the depth that you'd get otherwise. So I think that 15 would be a pretty good number. I think it's manageable from the teaching point of view. I think it's more or less perfect for the actual space and running the studio and the equipment point of view. Yeah. So that would be ideal.
Do you think the merging students will work together?
I honestly don't see there being any issue with it at all. In the position that I'm in, obviously with Mr. Swanson's teaching, he's just got you guys down at Katanning. I am in the position where I work with all the TV production students across the district. And generally what I've seen, and because we have more of an open atmosphere down here, we discuss a lot of different things, and what I've seen and from what I've heard, there are so many students with how close the communities are that already know each other. They're already friends. They already get along. There might be healthy competitive rivalries. You talk about sports, of course, it's going to be a rivalry. And, there's always going to be a dynamic of maybe somebody doesn't like somebody else. But that's just called being, in a public school that has hundreds of kids in it, really. I don't see there being any issue whatsoever. The students who generally take TV production, there's a certain kind of personality that they have, and I can't really put my finger on what that is, but normally they're more outgoing type of students. It's just what the program lends itself to, I think, a little bit. So as far as working together, I don't think there will be any issue with that. I actually think it's going to help the program be healthier ultimately, because you have different perspectives that are going to come in, and you're going to have more students that bounce ideas off of each other. So,
right, especially that first year or two, I think it'll be interesting, because you're becoming from, I know that the way Ford City runs her program and the way that we run ours isn't entirely different, but it's not entirely the same either. So it'll be kind of neat to see the kind of merging of ideas, and the way that kids approach things. And
yeah,
it'd be kind of cool from the instructor point of view too, to kind of guide that along.
And I really think if you want to see a comparison for how these students in both communities already get along, I point to what I think is one of the best things I've seen in this district since I've been here. And that is the, what do they call it, KFC, I think, which is the formation of both the Kittanning and Ford City Student Councils already working together. They have been, I believe, all year, maybe even a little bit at the end of last year.
About 2.5 years.
Yeah, so I mean, and that was already, they've been working together for that long, just in preparation for opening a new building and building that camaraderie. So I really have zero concerns about any issues with the students merging into one building and working together. So.
Yeah, the only thing I foresee are jokes that might cross the line every once in a while. I don't see any serious issue at all. I think the kids will generally be excited.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many TV production teachers will there be?
We don't know.
Yeah, staffing is something that our principals are working very, very diligently on. It's not an easy job, and some of it will be driven by the number of students who have registered for the course. Others will be driven by just logistics of staffing and what's available out there. There's a potential that you could have 2. There's a potential to be 1.5. There's a potential to be 1. It just depends on how the staffing works out.
And that's a whole big logistical nightmare that thankfully our principals are addressing and not us.
Yeah.
And that's something that's going to be shifting and changing. And there's a whole system behind that. And basically, we're still pretty far way off at this point of knowing exactly how that's going to land. But Mr. Garitano said, numbers, the merging of 2 schools is going to bring with it some growing pains. They're going to have to be addressed in terms of staffing, who goes where, and things of that nature. So at this point, there really is no way of telling.
Yeah.
Do you know who the TV production teachers are going to be?
Nope.
But that kind of feeds into the same thing.
Yeah.
The logistics of staffing are this. You have many teachers in the district who are certified to teach multiple different subjects.
Right.
What TV production falls into is both English and technology education. So for example, this year Mr. Swanson at Kittanning has English classes as well as TV production, and Mr. Miklos is also at Kittanning. He has tech ed classes as well as TV production. So anybody who's certified in English or tech ed technically would be certified in a position where they could apply to be the teacher of a TV production course.
Right.
Logistically, it probably wouldn't happen, but theoretically, you could have 6 different teachers teaching 6 different periods if that's the way it had to work to divide the English classes and the tech classes and the TV production classes. So, as Mr. Swanson said, staffing is something that they're still working on. There will be some preliminary suggestions out soon, but really, until really, I'd say middle of summer, maybe even August, when we get closer to the beginning of the school years, when those numbers or ideas will become more concrete.
Yeah, from what I understand, we expect to have an idea before the end of this school year, but nothing is going to be set in stone, more than likely until we're actually there.
Right. What differences do you expect to see the way the class is taught now and how it will be taught in the future?
Well, I think just having the studio as part of the classroom will make a big difference. Mm-hmm. The class, it's always struck me as kind of funny that the class is called TV production, and it's more like video production because we don't have a TV studio at our school. The closest thing we have are the morning announcements, which, to pull the curtain away is just a dingy old black curtain hanging on a wall with a basic 2-bus switcher, which is tucked away in the back of a corner of the office, and which you know very well.
Yeah.
So that's like our only essence of TV production at the school. Now we do different projects, like you remember we did the news package and the PSA and things like that, which lend themselves to TV production, but that's also more of a video production aspect of TV production. So up until the new school, the essence has always been that this show, Education Today, was the lab component of the course. So you guys would come up here once every quarter, and this was the full-out TV production, because you're actually here, you're producing a show for TV. You know, you're doing like a live-to-tape situation and all of that. And it supplemented what we were doing at the high school. So when we're up there next year, I think you can expect to see in TV production specifically. I mean, the second level class lends itself more to like filmic kind of things, you know, but especially in TV production, you're going to see much more studio-centered exercises and experiences. Like, just off the top of my head, the announcements will be done. You know, like, in essence, it would be like we do the morning announcements here. You know, like the morning announcements will go where the show goes. Chris and I have been discussing potentially piloting different student-centric shows, which is obviously a long way off, and we got to see who's where next year and all of that, and it would have to go through the administrative approval process. But even more than that, like, I would foresee, you know, like groups, how you guys are split into groups, you know, you'd be producing different live-to-tape experiences. And one thing that how it works now, as you're well aware, as the instructor of the course, I come up your first trip the first quarter, and then your last trip the last quarter. Right. Otherwise, I'm pulled out of the classroom too much, to kind of get you started and kind of wrap things up, and then you're here with Chris in the middle. Fortunately, Chris and I see more or less eye to eye on most everything when it comes to this show and to the class in general and the way it should be ran. So in essence, you know, I give Chris a list of criteria that we agree on, and then he tells me, well, how'd you do? You know, and the criteria is kind of loose because we can't expect you to master something when you're here 4 times a year. You know, whereas in the new school, the level of mastery expectation would go up significantly, because it'd be something you'd be working with every day or virtually every day. So something I would foresee happening in TV production next year is near the beginning of the thing, everyone kind of fills out a position. And then you kind of like gravitate towards what you gravitate toward to. And then by the end of it, I would expect mastery of camera, directing, you know, something like that. Like I would expect you guys to be able to handle anything, but I would expect there to be one aspect of it that each student is just excellent at.
Success. We see it every day. Hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes, internationally known faculty who are committed to your success. Real-world experiences to guide you on your career and life path. An alumni network 120,000 strong. I'm IUP President Mike Driscoll. Visit us. Find your success at Indiana University of Pennsylvania.
All your professors, all of them, they know that all it takes is one dreamer with passion, one person, and they hope in each of you that you might be that one who makes a longer lasting light bulb, who writes music for the ages, who reaches into the mind and discovers a new star, and who can change the world of a 5th grader. We're gathered here to hope in you.
Hard to explain. It just became home. There are hundreds of majors and programs, bachelor's degrees to PhDs, small classes and faculty that really get to know you. Amazing internships and everywhere, programs that help to find a job that is right for you. It's what IUP is about, a commitment to your success. See it for yourself. Visit us. Indiana University of Pennsylvania. Find your success.
It's almost infinite in its capacity. Its ability to reach its full potential is limited by only one thing: the heart. For if the heart isn't fully engaged in what you're doing, if you have no drive, no passion, the brain will simply go through the motions. Find your success at Indiana University of Pennsylvania.